When I was a baby, we lived in Bassett Road in Woking, actually in the part of Woking called Maybury. It was a council house, and in the house next door was a family called Crofchuk. The adults were Wanda and Ludwig. They had several children, one of whom was Tony, and as an adult he committed a serious crime and was a prisoner in Maidstone prison for a while when Grandma lived at Pennenden Heath. Wanda got in touch with Grandma and asked her if she would go and visit. And I know she went once, but I don't know whether she went more than that. Living in Maybury was Grandma, Auntie Maria and me. I don't remember my father living there. In fact, my memories of my father are very few and far between. I remember a box of chocolates at the bottom of the stairs. There was a cupboard or a shelf, and this box of chocolates was standing upright on there. In those days, you could get big boxes of chocolates with soppy pictures on the front, and it was one of those with a bow across the corner. I think it may have been my father's friend called Percy, or it may have been the insurance man who'd given them to us, but I really don't know. As for my father, the only memory I have is very slight. I remember a box of Maltesers, and there's something inside me that tells me that it was something to do with a mobile shop and my father. Whether I went to the mobile shop with him, I don't know, but that's the only memory that I have of my father. When I was about 3 or 4, we were all indoors in Bassett Road, and Wanda was there with us. Someone knocked on the back door, and I ran to see who it was, and I tripped on the doormat and cut my forehead, which was about there, and I had to be taken to hospital for stitches. And I seem to remember that I had a polka dot dress on. I don't have many other memories of Bassett Road, apart from a children's book which had a picture of a bridge over a railway line with a steam train going along. But it wasn't a photograph, it was a painted picture in the book. Yeah, I really don't remember much at all. Apparently I used to sit out in the garden and drop Grandma's spoons down the drain, and they were what were known as apostle spoons, and they were silver. You'd have them in a set of 12 for the 12 apostles, and they'd have the figures on the end, and I used to drop them down the drain. Apparently another thing that I did was, there was one day when I didn't want what we had for tea, and I just leant across the table and swept everything off there onto the floor. Grandma must have been beside herself because we were very poor, we had hardly any food, and I think I'd thrown what we had on the floor. She wasn't very happy with me, which wasn't unusual, but it just gives an example of the sort of tantrums I had. We moved from there just before I was 5, and we moved to a maisonette in Board School Road. That was a 2-floor house above a flat for an old person. It was a lady called Mrs. May who lived underneath our house, and her daughter Eileen. Before we moved into that house, Grandma used to take me there if we were going shopping, and she'd put a few tins in the kitchen cupboard. I always remember there was a small tin of carnation milk in there. Yeah, can't remember much more about it. I think Auntie Maria and I got on quite well, although there was 6 years between us. Grandma always had Auntie Maria up on a pedestal, and I certainly wasn't on the pedestal. In fact, I don't think I was supposed to even be in the same room as the pedestal. And Grandma wasn't impressed the day that I won a baby show when I'd been screaming all day. There's a photograph of her and me on the day of the baby show up on the wall in my craft room at the moment. There was one day when we were living there that Auntie Maria and I were going to catch the bus, I think to go over to Auntie Anne. And on the way we found a Caramac bar and we shared it. We both used to really like Caramac. I wonder now, and I have done for a while, whether Maria had planted it there for us to find. I don't know. Yeah, might have been a Green Line bus that we got from there. Don't know. Just not sure. So, yeah, we moved from there to Board School Road. I think that's all I want to say for the moment.